and Grandma Susie during her senior year in high school. Our parents were having marital difficulty, and Jackie could not get along with her mother. Well, Jackie's now a pediatrician, and she understands that is common, but at the time it was devastating for her. She was now in a loving home with no conflict and a supportive aunt who, even when she did not follow the rules, treated her with respect and kindness. She helped her make a pink velvet prom dress. She made her lunch. She came to plays, and she never said an unkind word about my parents. Grandma Susie passed away in 1975, and a new phase of Marjorie's life started. Marjorie the Traveler. Marjorie traveled all over the world, but I want to share my travel experiences with Marjorie. I moved to Quantico, Virginia, which is about 30 miles from DC. Marge came for a visit when we went to Williamsburg, the Capitol building. We met with her congressman. We went to the National Geographic building and every one of the Smithsonians. I put 1,300 miles on my little VW in 1 week. When I moved to South Carolina, it was the same. We saw Savannah, Georgia, Savannah, Charleston, every plantation and historical marker in the state. She embraced the culture and had a sense of adventure that was remarkable. We listened to every lecture, took every tour, and we had a blast. On a side note, I took my parents to Williamsburg, and after about one tour, they had to have a drink and a cigarette and begged off for any more school. Marjorie was supportive of the entire family and attended all graduations and weddings, including the last wedding of the family in Australia. She was 88 years old at the time, and that in fact was going to be her last trip. She was a private person and never complained, except would note in our weekly phone calls that it was challenging getting older and losing her ability to recognize people and read the newspaper because of her near blindness and deafness. She loved the Fresno Bee. She sent clippings to me, always on things she thought I would find interesting in the paper. We all inherited Aunt Marjorie's love of cats. She was the queen. She had a very dry sense of humor and a very conservative take on government. She lived well and with class. She loved Christian Science, and it gave her peace. I will miss her terribly. So thank you, Jackie. That was amazing. It was definitely worthy of a publication in the Fresno Bee. George, could you take care of that for us? You still have pull there. We went there, and we know, absolutely. So Aunt Marjorie would have been proud to meticulously clip out your article, Jackie, and send it to friends and family around the globe, and eventually file it away in her own version of her Fresno Bee archives. I helped clean out her apartment, and she had an amazing filing system. It was just incredible. I would just think of something, she'd have a cross-reference with something else, and I could find anything. It's great. So now, as you could tell, Jackie inherited Aunt Marjorie's incredible memory for details. So she essentially named almost every fond memory I had of her. So I won't bore you with the repetition of those details except the one. Marjorie Arnold had a tremendously positive impact on my life. I was blessed to spend the last 6 weeks with her, along with so many of the family members and friends who came to visit her during the final chapter of her life. Out of necessity, I became her primary caregiver. I had come up to visit Aunt Marjorie from San Diego for a 3-day trip to help her choose a high-tech digital device, digital reader, so she could still participate in her most beloved pastime, reading. Her eyes were simply worn out and had made it extremely challenging for her to read her beloved Fresno Bee, her racy novels, as well as the teachings from the Christian Science Religion's Science and Health book. This 3-day trip turned out to be a six-week adventure with this loving yet fiercely independent and private person. Now remember, she had never been in a hospital in her 95 years. So despite that, we navigated the twists and turns of a complicated and overburdened healthcare system and eventually found our rhythm to find her peace and comfort. Her final weeks here at the Terraces were filled with lots of love and laughter, tears of joy and pain, with an eventual peaceful passing at the Dorothy Hines Hospice House. This was only possible with the dedication of the hospital staff and the frequent visits by Aunt Marjorie's loyal friends, many whom she'd known for over 50 years. In fact, George Gruner, Aunt Marjorie's editor at the Bee for many years, shared a friendship and an affection for her for over 71 years. He, along with Diana Bell, would come daily to visit Aunt Marjorie, to spend quality time with her, or simply sitting and watching Jeopardy or the local news. This would give me time to go out and do things that I needed to do, like go to the gym, which was great. I could go on forever with stories about Aunt Marjorie. However, I'll end here by simply expressing my profound gratitude that I was able to be her companion and guide down this final road of her journey in life, which was very, very well traveled. So, I'd like to open it up. We have a mic here. Or no, Catherine's coming up. Catherine is the baby of our family, baby girl, Runa, but an amazing mom and a wonderful niece and sister. Okay, so look into that. Or not look into it, but you know. Okay, good. All right.
Thank you so much for coming here. There we go. I am Catherine, and I just have a few things to say. It must be said that we could not have done what we did for Aunt Marjorie without my brother Joe. It is absolutely amazing that he dropped his life for 6 weeks. Well, no matter what time it would have taken, he would have been there for her. And I know the comfort and the solace that he gave her for that. And we are all forever, forever grateful. I did reach out to the family that could not be here. I'm very, very grateful that Jacki and Reed and her oldest son, Robert, were able to come out to California while Aunt Marjorie was alive, which is really the best and most important time. And so I sent out an email saying, if you can't make the services, there's something you want to say. And our oldest nephew, Robert, who is, well, he's almost 50, so, that's how old we are. But he just wrote this little thing, and I just wanted to read it. He said, "The beautiful aspect of Aunt Marge was that for me, there wasn't much that needed to be said. You knew that she loved you, cared for you, and wanted the best for you. She was a steadfast influence for me, and in a lot of ways showed me how to live my life. Her independence, lack of judgment for others, love of animals and friends, desire for personal space and privacy, and lastly, her view of life in its purity of all aspects of her that I try to emulate every day. She really was, and in my memory still is, one of the main beacons in my life. I'm smiling as I write this because I can hear her. She will always be alive for me." That's from my nephew, Robert. And for me, when she turned 75, I made a scrapbook for her. And some of you may remember because I reached out to all of her friends and all of her colleagues in the Fresno Bee. Again, George was instrumental in that and getting a big career section in the scrapbook for it. So if you do have time, please go in the back and just take a look. I've got neighbors. I've got a lot of things in there. And I wrote a letter at that time that I'm just going to share just a very small part of it. But I also wanted to tell you that later on, after I did that, so she was 75 at the time, she'd say, "Oh, Catherine, I have a couple friends that weren't able to write you at the time. Would you please put that in there?" So I put it in there. And, "Oh, Catherine, there's something else I want to do. And would you please put that in there?" So I would put it in. And then the end of last year, she said, "We didn't mention my automobiles or my cats. Can we have a section on my automobiles and my cats?" So I was working on that in August when she passed away, but it is back there. I completed it for her. The last thing I will need to do is I'm going to put a Rosie the Riveter article in there because that was really wonderful, and she was very proud of that article. not the pictures, but she was really proud of the article. And then the beautiful bit that the Fresno Bee did, which George helped us write. There, just one memory.